What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, starting off the week with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The U.S. says it stands with the Philippines against what it calls dangerous and unlawful actions by China in the South China Sea. Beijing and Manila accuse each other of causing two ship collisions in a disputed part of those waters. Philippine authorities say a Chinese Coast Guard ship carried out dangerous blocking maneuvers and collided with a Philippine vessel trying to resupply another ship in the South Thomas Shoal. But China says it was the Philippines violating international maritime law and allegedly putting their ships in danger. Carrier strike groups from both the U.S. and China are operating in the South China Sea as tensions there remain high. Now, those collisions are just the latest in a string of recent clashes in the South China Sea. For more on the risks of military escalation there, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Stanford University security analyst Ray Powell.
China and the Philippines are accusing each other of collisions in a disputed area of the South China Sea. How dangerous was this incident?
Well, I think this one in particular, I think, was quite dangerous because of the size differential between the two ships involved, right? So it's not hard at all to envision a scenario in which the two ships collided and the little ship was essentially just run over. That came very close to happening, I think. But the boat's mission is to go to the other side of where the Coast Guard ship is, right? That its mission is to deliver the supplies to Second Thomas Shoal, and the Chinese ship is blocking the way. So the resupply boat has to go through somehow, and perhaps I'm sure that there are people on that little boat who are counting their blessings that things didn't go worse. And in some ways, I think you can also say something like this was inevitable. And we've been seeing how close these encounters have been. And piloting a ship on the water is not like driving a car on land. You can't just take a turn and know where you're going to end up all the time. There is a huge variance that happens, and you're not quite sure exactly. That's why you have to keep these distances. And as you've seen, they have not been keeping the distances.
We've seen incidents between China and the Philippines before. China has flashed a military-grade laser at the Philippines. It's fired a water cannon at Philippine vessels. But this incident, is this a sign of escalation in the region?
I think so certainly in effect, it is an escalation. I think that it's a difference in degree rather than kind, right? Because there have been the swarming, the near ramming, the blocking, all of these things have been happening. And so the fact that eventually it's going to end up with two ships or two vessels swapping paint, as it were, seems kind of inevitable. So I don't know that there is. I do think that China knows that the U.S. and its allies are distracted, and clearly the U.S. and its allies are distracted, right? I mean, there's a hot war going on in Europe, and there is a maelstrom going on in the Middle East. So yes, the U.S. and its allies are distracted. To what degree that plays into China's decision to go harder at this, I don't know.
Satellite imagery is now showing that the U.S. and China are operating carrier strike groups in the South China Sea. Is this another sign of the tensions that we're seeing in the South China Sea?
Well, I think mostly what it's a sign of is the fact that China is a fast growing military power, which didn't used to have a carrier strike group. And the United States, of course, has operated carrier strike groups in the South China Sea for a very, very long time. So this kind of situation is going to happen more often. The South China Sea is going to be more militarized simply because China, as a growing military power, has a much, much larger navy than it has before. So the two navies are going to have to interact in the South China Sea on a semi-regular basis. I think that they probably will keep it professional. Neither one of them is looking for war, I don't think.
That was Ray Powell, a security analyst at Stanford University, speaking to our reporter Jaime Ocon. Shares in Taiwanese electronics giant Foxconn have slumped by up to 3% over reports it is under investigation in China. Chinese state media said that the Fortune 500 company is the subject of a probe into its taxes and land use. Foxconn is best known for assembling Apple's iPhone, and it has large operations in China. The company has responded to the investigation by saying it prioritizes legal compliance in its businesses everywhere. This comes just months before Taiwan's presidential election, where Foxconn founder Terry Guo hopes to run as an independent. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will meet China's President Xi Jinping in Beijing. That's after a breakthrough in the country's trade dispute over Australian wine.
It is important that we stabilise our relationship with China. That is in the interests of Australia and China, and it is indeed in the interests of the world.
Albanese says China has agreed to review its tariff hikes on wine from his country. He made the announcement just hours before flying to the U.S. to meet U.S. President Joe Biden. Albanese plans to visit Beijing after that trip before he heads back to the U.S. for the Leaders Summit of APEC, a major economic forum. It's one of the few international meetings that Taiwan is not blocked from attending by China. The founder of Taiwanese chip giant TSMC, Morris Chang, will represent Taiwan for the 5th time there. A second convoy of aid trucks carrying food and medicine has entered the besieged Gaza Strip. That is as the death toll there has risen to more than 4,500. Israel has blockaded Gaza and has been bombing the territory since Hamas militants raided Israel on October 7. 1,400 people were killed in that attack and hundreds were taken hostage. U.S. President Joe Biden and other Western leaders on Sunday urged Israel to adhere to humanitarian law and to protect civilians. Over the weekend, the Taipei Grand Mosque held a charity drive for Palestinian victims of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Bing Wong was there.
10-year-old Ryan is writing letters to Palestine. He's from Jordan, but has been living in Taiwan most of his life. He's writing from the river to the sea, a popular but controversial Palestinian political slogan. Although he's young, his parents have taught him about the Palestinian struggle for a homeland. And now he spends his time at school raising awareness of the ongoing conflict between Hamas and Israel. Ryan is one of 60,000 Muslims in Taiwan. He and hundreds of people are attending a charity drive here at the Taipei Grand Mosque, where the proceeds will go to people in the Gaza Strip.
We hope that with this kind of event, our Taiwanese brothers and sisters can also understand that we have a group of people who are supporting the people in Palestine.
On October 7, the Palestinian militant group Hamas launched a surprise attack on Israel, killing around 1,400 Israelis. Israel responded with airstrikes on the Gaza Strip, which have reportedly killed more than 4,000 people. There are only 32 Palestinians in Taiwan, mostly students, but the Muslim community here wants to offer their support to those in Gaza.
It's all about politics, and it has nothing to do with Islam or Jewish people or Muslims.
We are here just praying for them, and of course that's the least we could do. And for us, I think, as human beings, that's the least we could do.
The charity drive ended with a prayer for the Palestinian people and peace in their region. Taiwan's government has offered Israel support, even lighting Taipei 101 with the Israeli flag. But from this charity drive, it's clear there's also support for Palestine in Taiwan. Devin Tai and Bing Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Nurses have taken to the streets of Taipei to protest conditions they say are hellish. They want the government to fix problems that lead many nurses to quit the industry, leaving a heavier burden for those who stay. John Van Trieste reports.
Nurses and radiologists marched through Taipei to show their anger at a system they say isn't working. The unions represented at this protest say working as a nurse has become hell, and some of the marchers have put on Gaulish costumes to drive this point home. 320,000 people in Taiwan have nursing licenses, but only around 190,000 actually work as nurses. A big reason for this gap is low wages that lead many interested in nursing to give up on the field. Some marchers say anyone trying to get a raise runs into a never-ending bureaucratic loop.
医院会说你的健保的总额就是这样一点点，我怎么有办法帮你加薪？但是呢，跟卫福部讲，卫福部就说啊，这我没有办法干涉私人医院的这个薪酬的这个规划。
Nurses' unions are demanding an end to this. They want both a pay raise and for it to be covered with more funding for the national health insurance system. But that's not all. The nursing shortage means potentially dangerous overwork, something that's potentially dangerous not just for nurses, but for patients too.
一个大夜照顾到18甚至20床，那有的人可能超过接近25。
That's where the union's other two demands, no overwork and better workplace safety, come in. The hell-themed march has caught officials' attention. The health ministry has already met with union reps and promised changes, like raises of up to 50% for night shift workers from January. They've also talked about more funding for the public insurance system.
影响各院财务最严重当然是健保，健保这个总额的这个大饼要扩大，从这边的源头扩大，那将来他们的这个薪水才有可能会提高了。
But so far, the government's only approached unions representing hospital administrators, not frontline healthcare workers. The next question is whether those who say they're in hell have their voices heard too. Alex Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's renowned dance troupe Cloudgate performed a special version of its classic Send in a Cloud over the weekend, taking advantage of the natural scenery in eastern Taiwan. Yujing Huang has more.
Facing a vast world in solitude, this performance by renowned dance troupe Cloudgate is meant to convey a deep sense of isolation. Called Send in a Cloud, it was created during the COVID pandemic. And the dancers have put on a special version for the Chishang Autumn Harvest Arts Festival in eastern Taiwan, using elements of this setting not usually available in a theater, such as natural light and winds that ripple through a sea of rice plants.
霞这个名字跟大自然在一起，然后它是天光的一种折射，然后折射出人的情感，所以我觉得非常适合放在这样的舞台上。
Known for its unique blend of traditional Chinese and contemporary dance styles, Cloudgate has been at the forefront of Taiwan's art scene for half a century. And the group's performance is a highlight of this year's festival. The company first performed in Chishang 10 years ago, ushering in many changes for this rural town of some 8,000 people.
其实是当外界的肯定以后，乡民警觉到说这是对池上的最重要的认同，所以说这变成池上乡的事。
Chishang's Arts Festival is now among the most popular in the country. Scheduled according to the seasonal rice harvest, it's also a celebration of the area's agricultural heritage. The entire village comes together to welcome outsiders. Residents clean the streets, students volunteer to help guide guests and keep the environment clean, and farmers help prepare the stage.
The organizers chose a specific type of rice to ensure a perfect background for the performances. It was timed so that it was fully matured and harvested just 10 days before the big day.
And Cloudgate prepared the surprise, also with the help of locals. 16 children volunteered to learn and perform part of the dance troupe's classic, Legacy. The excerpt is an artistic depiction of rice planting, which also serves to boost the locals' pride in their culture.
不要因为你在偏乡，感觉就人家矮了人家很多呢。现在我们池上农友出去外面种，跟人家打招呼都说我是池上种田。这可能台湾全省只有池上农友这么臭屁，感受温到类建产。
Now on its 15th year, the Chishang Harvest Arts Festival has given new life to this rural town and empowered its residents with newfound confidence. Chris Ma, P.T. Zhuang, and Yujing Huang for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us for What's Up Taiwan. You can find more of our reports on social media like X and YouTube. Finally, we'll leave you with more of Cloudgate's performance in Sisang. I'm Eric Gao, and I'll see you later on TaiwanPlus News.